Hi everyone, welcome back to the Model 3 Man channel. This is a big one. This took me forever. In fact, I've had to defer my tip of the day until tomorrow. So it's tip of tomorrow, not tip of today, because this just took so long. Now, I thought what I'd do is introduce the topic generally first of all, and then at the end I'd give you some conclusions and a bit of a summary, a few recommendations, and some ideas for you. To set the context, you've got to understand that installing powered struts, the electronic tailgate, is not just a matter of click, 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 and it's done. It's an install. And I was quite terrified whether I'd actually be able to complete it or not, and you saw the teaser I sent out through Twitter. If you're not following me on Twitter, go down into the description and you can find it there. Let's set some context. Paul McCartney's song, When I'm 64, was true of me 2 years ago. I'm more of a musician than an electrician. In other words, I'm not what you'd call a real handyman or a technical kind of a guy. I mean, I'm technical with computers and cameras and things like that, but not really with cars. I was never very mechanically minded. So if you're wondering whether you can do this, if I can do it, you can do it. But could I do it? And that's the subject of tonight's upload. I'm going to save my conclusions and my recommendations and my ideas until the end. So let's get right on into it, and let me introduce you to the installation of my Model 3 power tailgates. Well, this is a day that I both dreaded and looked forward to in pretty much equal measure. The good folks at Hansshow sent me a set of power tailgates to install and to review, and this is that review. Problem is, it's not just a matter of sticking them in. It's a matter of hours and hours of work as you not only connect them and install them, but lay cabling, make connections, pull up lots of the body trim, connect to the battery, just a whole host of very scary sounding tasks. So this is the review of me doing the install. Along the way, of course, I did a lot of research, and naturally I looked to all of the YouTubers that had done a similar install, and among them were these guys, and their reviews were really very, very helpful. Now we're going to identify all of the components. I'm not going to take time to explain them here, just going to list them. This is also by way of a component check to make sure everything is here. So first of all, we have the power struts, then the control center to which everything gets attached, update slot at the back, cable ties and double-sided tape, a very, very long power connection cable, soft close lock replaces the old one, the actuator that drives that, that's the biggest harness for all of the connections, the beeper that lets you know when the trunk is opening or closing, and that's the trunk close button. That's a special drill bit to cut the hole for your trunk close button, and in case you break the studs, they have them. Now for tools, you need a socket wrench with a number of different sockets, possibly a wire cutter, pliers, general purpose, always helpful, electrical tape, a necessity, wire fisher to pull the wires through the corrugated tube, and all of the trim removal tools, always important to have, and the 45 Torx bit, T45. There they are. That's my set of tools for the day. And there they are, neatly laid out outside, just outside Dragon Cave, and of course the instructions not to be set aside. But my typed out ones are far better than the official ones that come from Hansshow. So they say that cleanliness next to godliness. I hope that that works for me, because I've vacuumed the whole of the trunk first. Do not want to be working on a dirty trunk area. I also have some light boxes here to try and increase the amount of light inside there. So my assistant today is my tripod. So step number one is going to be removing this plastic trim over here. It sits over the locking latch, and we're just going to remove it by lifting it up. It is held in place as well by this rubber lip, so we'll have to use a prise tool just to get that up a little, and we'll just pull it up from each end. because removing this panel there are numerous studs. There are 4 white ones that are pretty big and hefty, and then there are lots of green ones. Now they have given us 2 spare green ones just in case, but we're going to see if we can do it without breaking them. So here we are with a very valuable prize tool. I'm expecting 1 or 2 of the little green studs to actually break. So as you can see there, a number of the clips are still in place. They're still where they should be. So what we're going to do now is I'm going to take these out, get them out of here, and reseat them into here. There are 3, 1, 2, 3 that need putting back. There are 4 green ones along the top edge. There are those 2. There's 1 in the center, and there's 4 white ones that run the full width of the cover. We're going to take off this trim piece here, which sits right above me. We have 1 locking clip at the very end of it. You can see that this part here, I pulled it out, and then that allows us to pull the entire plug right out. So you can see I've removed those 2 little plugs. They have a little central area that pushes down and forces open the 3 prongs. When you pull the central core up, then the rest of it comes out quite easily. So now we can remove that trim piece, and quite literally it comes away that easily. So that was where the clips went in, and all the rest of it just sit nicely in the grooves up at the top of the trunk. So we can just take this and put it aside as well. Now what we also want to do is just remove these 2 clips here that hold the back of the carpet against the body of the car. We want to get down inside there, and so we're going to take these out to make that easier for us. So what you're seeing down here is the space behind the carpet, and as you can see now there's a lot of space for us to tuck things in. For example, we can tuck in the actuator, the motor that is going to operate the new latch. So a lot of space, cables can go back there, keep them out of sight, and then we'll put that back at the end. Now at this point we're going to drill the hole for the trunk close button, fitting on the edge of the tailgate cover. And the question of where to position it, well, if we look behind, it's got to either be in that segment or in that segment, so it's not touching on those little ribs. I'm going to put it right here between that there. The back of that unit will fit through the hole, and the nut will tighten it down, hold it in place. So I'm just going to unscrew that first of all. So there it is, installed, fitted. So with any luck, that is the correct Torx bit number. It's 45. That did the trick. What I'm going to do here is to install the new latch, and as you can see it has the cable, the actuator leading to the actuator. We're going to first tighten it down, and then I'm going to hide it behind the carpet over here. So let me get the screws in first. You might want to make a mark on your existing latch before you go and do what I did, and that is just make a little mark down there that gives you a guide. And now you can see here that we have the actual mechanism along with double-sided tape, which will help it to stick. And then of course we've got the connector that we're finally going to put into the control center. But for now, all we have to do is to tuck this in behind, and it can fit comfortably down here. I'm just putting it down against the wall. I'll remove the double-sided tape later because I don't want to close my options, and I'm really not sure exactly where it should sit. So I'm going to take a moment now just to get to what is probably the hardest task, and also the most central task, and that is to get to run some wires up from inside the trunk down there, come up through this over here, go into the corrugated duct which goes up to here, and then to run the cables that we're pulling up from down there will go through there and come out here in the trunk lid. Then I can run them to the trunk opener, which we just installed a little earlier. So running the cable with its little connector through here is a horrific task. I did purchase this wire fisher, which I'm going to use to run through, and you can see I'll hold it against there. This is a long, very long cable, much longer than we need, but that can go through, and it's very rigid, and therefore it won't just bend and fold as we push it through. So I'm going to try and lift the cover off this so that we have an opening there. This is already lifted away, so that's no problem. That wasn't too difficult. There it is. It's out. Now I do need to find the correct cable that I'm going to feed up through here, so we don't have to feed the whole bunch. Thank goodness this version 3 has a different connecting point. We only need one now, and the one that we need is the one that opens on the trunk closing button. And we're going to feed this down through the corrugated pipe. Remember, what I'll do is I'll tie the wire onto here and we'll pull it back up. I'm going to rethink this because I think I should take out these clips here to give me a bit more freedom. So in the meantime, what I did was I fed this cable, and by the way, they're nicely labeled, tailgate button. I brought it up through the bottom. There it is there. I've fed the fishing tape down through here, and it's just peeking out there, but I can't get to it to pull it out. These needle nose pliers certainly can. Okay, it's coming out right there. You can see it. I'm going to use the pliers now to make that easier on my hands. Grab that. We'll just feed it through. There we go. Well, they're not kidding. This is the very worst part of the job. What I'm going to do now is connect this onto the end of that, tape it up, and try and pull it up through there. We'll use a lot of Vaseline to make very sure that it goes up. Going to try and make sure that we make this as narrow as possible, because that's not an easy pipe to pull it through. So I'm going to put the clip on top of the fishing tape like that and take the cable right up against that metal curve, and then it's not a whole lot bigger. And I want to take it from the front here, because this is the part where we want to make its nose nice and gently sloping. Now, too much tape and it'll be too fat to go through there, so now we're going to put Vaseline on there. I'll have to wipe it off my hands, or I'm never going to be able to pull on the other end. Can we get this cable with the connector through the pipe? Let's try. Let's try and feel where this thing is at the moment, and I think it's on the junction. It's on this bend. That's what makes it so hard. Let's try giving it a bit more of a pull. Well, it's coming incrementally. I can feel that it's up to where my finger is now. Wonder if I massage it while I pull. Oh, it's coming. It's definitely coming. I think really tough to get this up through here. Almost makes me wish I'd mounted the trunk close button on the right side carpet, but it's a little flimsy and I wouldn't have been happy. But anyway, we're not through, so we're up past the first bump. We're sitting right here at the moment, and there's quite a way to go up there. That moved a bit. That moved a little. Well, I mean, quite a bit. Okay, we've moved up to there. It's getting higher, so we're sitting there, right there. And right there. We're right there. We're now sitting right in that second attachment point that was there. Let's give it another try with the pliers. We're up there, definitely moving. So here we are at the very, very final leg. There. Doesn't look like much, but it's the last section that's the tough one. We're almost there. I can see it. And there it is. That pair of pliers did the trick. There's all the tape still intact. We're going to undo that right now. So right now we're at the point where we want to remove the old struts. There's a little clip over there that we're going to force outwards so we can move this away. May have to push like that to be able to get it off, but I don't want to break the glass or chip the glass, so you can see I've got a towel covering the entire glass. There it is. You can see I've pulled it outwards. Now I'm going to try lifting with one hand. There we go. If you lift the trunk, it comes off easily. Okay, we're down on the bottom strut, and here we're going to use a much smaller screwdriver. So I'm going to put that in there, and look at that, it just falls away. I didn't have to do anything. Weirdly, the right hand one came away easily. The left side is just not playing ball. So getting it on is a little bit tricky. What you do have to do is put a screwdriver down there and lever that away, and that opens up the area for the ball head to go in. Do the same on the bottom end. You can see it there from that angle. Lever it away. Okay, it's the top one in. The bottom one, a bit tricky because it's hard to get to the clasp from this angle. Let's just lift this a little. That's it. Actually, it just ended up that I could just push it in and it forced the clip out by itself. So is it tight? You bet. Cable, wrap it around the rubber, and now we're going to take off these covers over here. So you may have to loosen these with a spanner at first, but I did loosen mine, so it's just a bolt. It comes off. It's a decorative bolt. There it is. Nothing to it. Okay, so now we're going to undo two nuts on the back side around there. I'll show them to you, and we take those nuts off. I think they're 8mm, and then we can lift this whole tail light assembly off, pull it off, and it'll come free. So out behind the lights, you've got the light connector right there. You've got one bolt up there and another bolt over there. So we're basically going to remove those two 8mm bolts, and we're going to remove that connector, and then I can just remove the light fitting with ease. So let's just check. We've undone the top bolt over here, and I've undone the two that secure it on the back, and I've unplugged the connector that brings in the power. So all we're going to do is wiggle this until it comes loose. There we go, and then lift it up and out. Up so that it clears this over here, and it's filthy. OCD kicks in. By the way, while we've got this apart, I'm going to show you something more over here. So if we pull down the carpet, you can see something right here. That, folks, is the handle so you can release your closed or jammed charge port door. So this just pulls out, and that will open the charge port door. So it sits right there. You can actually access it through those slots in the carpet. You don't have to take the whole carpet off. Here's the back of the light switch, and I've already replaced it with the one from Hansshow, and the other one's just hanging loosely over here. There it is there. It can stay there, but I'll tie it up so it doesn't rattle around. So here's the cable that goes along with the new power strut. We're going to ensure that we have what's called a drip loop. That should any water come down onto this cable, it's going to drip down there. It's not going to go into the body of the car. And that goes at the bottom. And of course the connector goes in through there. So I was a little worried whether that and the connector would fit, but they do. And basically we can just put the light back in on top of that now. So those two over there are going to go through there, and then these two screws will go back through there, and our drip loop should not interfere with anything. I'm putting my hand in the back and I'm holding this down, holding it down so that the connector can go in front of it. Once I put the two nuts on the back and I've tightened from the back there, I'll put the connector in, and then this is secured. Now repeat exactly the same for the other side of the car. Right hand side goes the same. So I'm going to go back in behind there and just reconnect the connector. There we go, connector is in. What about the cable? Well, we're running the cable back down here and down there, and it's going to go out to the control box when we install that. So we just have to put that back on again. I'm going to do it extreme finger tightness, and that should be good enough. That's fine. Light, solid, flush with the charging port, flush with the body, flush with that panel. That's good. Repeat for the next light on the right hand side. Do exactly the same. So at this point here, I can reattach the hose. I clipped in the rubber back there as well as the one at the top. Everything's nice and sealed, but I want to get this back to where it was. Comes in. We're going to take a look here at what happens next. These are the ends that come from each of the new electric tailgate struts. So left strut, right strut. We know that those are going to go into the control box when we get to that point. So we'll drop them over the side. This says foot sensor. Well, I don't have one of the foot sensors, so this one is not going to be used. How about this one? That's the beeper that goes off A, when your trunk is opening or closing, but B, when you adjust the strength of the struts and the speed. We can always unplug this later on if you get tired of hearing the annoying beep that comes when you open and close your trunk, but we need it for the setup. That is going to go into the back of the control box. So that's easy. It goes into the control box, which is going to go in the right hand side behind the carpet. But now we finally have one more puzzling connection. And it seems to have a male and a female. And here's the trick. In version 3 of the electronic tailgate that we're installing, we don't have to take this up into the lid of the tailgate. We take this under the trim behind the back seats. So the back seats, that flat parcel shelf or trim, we've got to lift that up and get this underneath. Well, now's as good a time as any to introduce you to the control box. It's got a number of ports on all sides. Right over there, a micro SD slot. You can do a firmware update on this little baby. So don't go putting this so far away that you can't reach it. There's a tiny little opening over there that you're going to press on to get to adjust the strength of the closing. On the back end here, what I'm clipping in now are the powered struts, left and right. And it doesn't matter which one I put it into. It's irrelevant. Then I said to you that there was a white connector over here on its own. That goes into there. What about the back end? Well, that is for power. So when we get to that, we're going to be running a cable from here all the way to the front of the car. This is another connector, and it says front can. Well, we won't actually need that. What about those two gray slots? A soft close automatic door, and that's down here. This is made so well. There they are, color-coded. They'll neatly fit into there and there. And this whole bundle, this whole little collection is going to go right behind the carpet, the enclosure where the subwoofer lives. So all we need to do is power. We're getting there. We really are getting there. The hardest job now is to get this. And these two go under the trim that lies on the back. Behind the back seats, you have a flat parcel shelf, and that piece of trim has to be lifted off. Some side trim has to be removed, and scaringly, the trim up at the top where the airbags reside has got to be moved so we can get into there. So we're going to move the camera so we can actually see inside the car, and we'll see how that goes. So to get underneath here, we first have to lift this trim piece off, and you can do so by pushing it up and off. And that reveals one heck of a lot of wiring. And on the side here, we've got 4 little familiar connectors that just plugged into the trim and attached the trim to the metal. There's 4 of them, one there, one across there, and one on the corner. The trim is now relatively loose, still attached at that end, and I think they want me to take off this trim piece as well, so I'm going to have a look at what needs to be done to get that off so that I can lift this up and get to the connector. A little trim piece on the side here comes off. Just to show you the back of it, there's one stud at the top, there's another one down the bottom, and you've got kind of a slot right over there, and I'm going to show you what goes into that. Look at the top here, there it is. This piece here goes into the groove I was just showing you. It doesn't necessarily get us any closer, but I'm thinking that this piece that I'm looking at right now is the next that has to come off so that this trim can be lifted up and we can get underneath it. So let me continue exploring. So there's a trim piece on the side up near the roof, up near the glass. This has to come off next. And when we've taken that off, we can go to the trim piece through which the safety belt is inserted. This will allow us to basically lift the trim over here so that we can get in underneath, because underneath is where that connector is. So it's not difficult to pull that off, and here's the cover, and it has a few clips, one that goes in there. This is one of the airbags, and there's the cylinder. So I was terrified that I'd do something to set it off, but that didn't happen. And you can see that I removed that, and that allowed me to take this piece off here, the piece through which the safety belt goes, and you can see that everything's now loose, and I've now got to try and lift up this trim, because back there by the speaker the connector is underneath this trim. Okay, you can see from here that I've got the trim lifted up, I've got my flashlight underneath holding everything together, and way in the back, that plug that you can see directly in front of you right there, the original plug plugged into the back end of it where you can see that orange. I unplugged that, plugged in the Hansshow plug. The Hansshow plug has a female receptacle, which is up there, and the original Tesla plug went into there. I'm going to put all the trim back now, and took a bit of fiddling, but I got the side panel in. I got the back trim back in again. Big trim over here, and we have that in. Big panel still to put in here on the side. Well, the good news is that the side panel fitted in easily. No difficulty at all. Look for the way that the slots at the back mate up with the projections on the back of this pad, and it goes right in. You push it back, clip it into place, and it's like you never removed it. Don't forget, safety belt must come out of the bottom edge and the top edge, and that must be free. Okay, we're getting ready to run the power to the front. So we're at the front end of the car now, and this cover over here comes off quite easily. I just loosened it, but it's got very basic clips, and it comes off extremely easily. And there's the air intake over here, which also clips off without much difficulty. And now we can get to the battery, and there you can see positive terminal, negative terminal. That's the 12-volt battery system. Before we connect this, and that's what goes onto the positive terminal, and the cable from the inside of the car comes in and connects to that, and they've given us a fuse which we can easily remove before we test it. So before we do connect that, I went into the controls menu and I turned off the power. I don't want to risk anything happening, so I just made sure I turned the car off. And I'm going to be putting that onto there. Just going to loosen this. See if we can slide this in behind, like that. Okay, that's good and solid. Then I will drill through the front and bring the power cable in through here, and we're done. Lots of tidying up at the back to do. You can see there that I just took the cable. It has the word ground on it. There, GND. Loosened the nut, pushed up the connector behind the big washer, tightened it nice and tight, and that goes to ground. So what we have here is the power wire. It says plus B. We're going to take it right through there, going through past the back seat, underneath the trim on the edge. We're going to find the easiest way through here. Go behind that. And I'll go to the side door and I'll pull it out over there. Bring up all the slack. So it's in here, ready to be pulled through. We brought it down from behind the carpet there. Come down to where the carpet meets the trim. And I've pushed it down, and you can just see that I've still got work to do, but I'm going to push it down behind the trim, right down to the floor, and then run along underneath the edge of the trim. So you can see what's happening here. We're just taking it under the trim. So all the way along, look, there it is. I'm pulling it out a little, but I'm going to push it back. We go under the trim, all the way under that trim, right the way up through the front. So you don't see a thing. The wire is completely covered by the trim on the edge. I've taken it under the trim, right up to the front. Go back so you can see where that is. And what we're going to do now is find our way up. Take off the cover. So here's the panel when you've disconnected it. There are 4 little plugs that fit in to hold it in place. There's a speaker over there that needs to be disconnected. And then there's the light switch. And you disconnect that as well. There's the light switch we disconnected. That's the speaker plug that we pulled out of the speaker. Now we're going to look underneath there to find the grommet through which I'm going to drill. There's the grommet. There are already 2 wires going through it. We're going to drill another hole just to the right. That's going to take the positive wire straight through into the frunk. And in the frunk we can fish it out, connect it, tidy up at the back, and we can test it. We're going to drill to the right of those 2. I'm not going to hold it while I drill, that's for sure. When it goes through, I'll push the cable through, I'll go to the front, we'll light it up nice and bright, and we'll connect everything. Alright, it's a little awkward to see, but you can see the 2 main orange wires coming through, and there at the top is the red wire that I just threaded through. So I'm just going to grab the pliers and pull that wire all the way through until it reaches the positive terminal. There you go, that was successful. Let's pull through from down there. You can see it there. There are the 2 big orange wires. And here is the wire that we connected to the positive terminal earlier, and there is the connector into which this end is going to go. I'm going to put this down while I connect them and just thread it through. Okay, that is firmly in. It looks good. The cover's on. That's the air intake component. Everything is beautifully back in position. Why am I talking quietly? It's late at night. Well, not really. It's 9 o'clock, 9:30. So we're going to close it. And it locks. That's good. Off to the back, tidy up the mess, and test if it all works. Time to plug the power into the computer and see if things light up. There it is. Well, that was promising. And even more promising is the beautiful red glow from the button. All I gotta do is push it and test it. That's all. I'm terrified. I'm absolutely terrified. Well, nothing for it. We're gonna give it a try. I mean, what's the worst that can happen? Oh, okay, I think we need to set it. We need to configure it. Total mess in there, but we'll get that fixed up tomorrow. Why do we take that awful buzzer off? That's it. I'm not going to tidy up the wires tonight. I'll do that tomorrow morning in the daylight. But do you hear that hysterical laughter? That's the sound of a man at the end of the day after I don't even know how many hours. But you know what? The whole thing was fun. It doesn't matter. Let's test it one more time. I can't do it with my phone because I'm filming with a phone, of course. That is so much better. Who needs the noise? One more time. I set the speed to 6. I like it to go pretty fast. Push the button again. Ladies and gentlemen, that's the end of the show. Good night. This is the part where you wish you had somebody else to do all the dirty work. Getting the cables all tied together, you can see it's a total mess. And if you look out here, it gets even worse. And if you look over there, you can see it's even worse still. So we're going to start from the left edge of the trunk, tie everything up, move toward the right, and then we can mount the control box on the inside wall. And we can also mount the soft close actuator, which is down there. We can mount that against the inside wall with the double-sided tape that they have. So I'm going to do that now, and I'll show you the results. And so everything is put back excepting the final trim. Everything else is good. One piece of trim left to install. Doesn't have any of the studs. Everything else is looking good. That is just the buzzer. I'll almost certainly throw it out. It's annoying, but it's there for now. Everything else back in place. Let's put that final piece in, shall we? The one thing you do have to do is make sure that you lift the rubber trim over. There it's sticking out. There, I've covered it. I'm going to do that to the whole of the edge. There it is, one perfectly clean trunk with all of the trim reinstalled. Very important that you align the lock. If that's crooked, you're going to get error messages and it will not lock. There we go. Looking good, looking clean. And that's my poor man's trunk mat. All right, so it was a moment of real triumph. I mean, listen, it took me, I think it was, I started at 11:30, and I know I should have started earlier, but I kept on jumping back to YouTube videos and checking the details. And here's the problem. I was installing the version 3 of Hansshow Power Tailgate. Version 3 is different in many ways from version 2 and version 1. I needed to take a look and carefully be sure that I was doing it correctly for the version that I was given. How long did it take me? I think it was 10:30, 10:45 at night when I accidentally stumbled over the light stand and cut my foot and had blood all over the place. But that's a different story for a different time. It was 11 o'clock, just before 11 o'clock that I finished. Why the heck did it take so long? Here's why. If you're going to install these on your own, it's fine. It's not that difficult. It's time consuming and it's fiddly and you go back and forth. The thing that takes the time is trying to video yourself and install. I didn't have Jillian available during the day. I didn't have Janine. I had me and a tripod, which I knocked over twice. So the idea of installing and filming is terrible. That's what I had to do. So I do apologize if any of the sections in this video were a little bit rough around the edges and the detail wasn't quite clear. It's really difficult to do both things at once. But at the end of the process, would I do it again? You bet I would. Would I do it better? I don't know. I did it pretty well. It did take me a long time, but I was very meticulous, and I've done a good install, and you cannot see a thing, and it works well, and everything is functional. Here are some recommendations. First is obvious. Don't try and film yourself while you're installing. Second recommendation, do the research. Go to all the YouTube videos, hopefully mine will be one that you can refer to. Go to the YouTube videos that are relevant and watch it and review it and write down some notes. Thirdly, don't go by the printed colored notes that come in the box. I love the product. Hansshow have done an amazing job of making something that's slick. I mean, it even has a mini SD card you can update in the little control box. That's incredible. But the instructions suck. Absolutely. They need to be rewritten by someone obviously proficient in English as first language. Much better photographs. And look, there's no excuse. You don't have to print out instructions any longer. You can make them a PDF file. You can make them beautiful color with wonderful photographs at zero cost. Just do a PDF file. So don't go by those instructions. Trust the YouTube videos that you come across. One thing I might suggest to you, I'm going to put a link in the description. There is one YouTuber, the name eludes me right now, but I'll give him credit. He takes it to a positive terminal under the rear seats. That's brilliant. But he knew about it. I didn't. And so under the rear seat, there's this proper positive terminal where you can connect to the 12-volt battery system instead of having to go right to the front and drill through that grommet and come out in the frunk. Look, it wasn't that hard. Drilling through the grommet, it's only rubber. You can push something through it if you want. That, I would say, take a serious look at. Is it worth it? Oh, it is. Look, you're going to get it for less 15%. So I think it's $4.99 US and you get 15% off. It's definitely worth it. It's such a pleasure to walk up to your car. We were carrying groceries, and just to tap on my iPhone app, trunk opens, beautiful. Close it, just touch the button at the top. If it's raining, open it before you get there, and then we walk straight to your car. Lots of advantages. So I definitely think it's worth it. And one other thing, you saw how much pain and aggravation and effort it took to get that single cable up through that corrugated hose up into the trunk lid. You might want to think of installing the trunk close button on the carpet on the side, and then you don't have to go through. You just put it on the carpet, drill a hole through the carpet, and I don't know, I didn't want to do it because to me the carpet is flimsy. I'd rather have it on a harder surface, but I offer that to you just in case you want an easier way, and you look at everyone struggling with that corrugated hose and you think, is there no way around it? Well, yeah, there is. Put the button somewhere not on the tailgate lid. What are the downsides? Well, I guess maybe one of them is that the noise of the tailgate is audible. You know, with the tailgate we had, it was silent and passive. It merely lifted the tailgate, but it was a compression device. This is a motor. It's two motors. So it makes a little bit of a noise. Who cares? That's really the least of the issues. Any other downsides? Are you changing your car? Are you permanently? Well, listen, in the tailgate inside cover, we're drilling a little hole like that into that plastic material, and it's covered by the trunk close button. Doesn't look like you've done anything. So other than that, there's nothing else. Other than that, listen, thank you for watching. This is a long episode, but it's probably shorter than half the others that are out there. And I hope it's comprehensive, and I hope it's thorough. And I hope you forgive me for not putting up the tip of the day today and deferring it until tomorrow. So thanks again for listening, and thanks to those kind folks that are giving me PayPal donations using the link below. I'm so appreciative of that. And if you have questions, put them in the comments section. I'd love to answer them. This is a lengthy install, but it was a ton of fun to do. And I hope that many of you will take the same route, because this is an upgrade that's worth doing on your car. Thanks for now. I'll see you tomorrow, and we will have a tip of the day tomorrow. Cheers for now.